This week, Nintendo guided us through a deep dive on their latest hybrid home console, the Nintendo Switch 2, revealing that this sequel is no mere refresh, but the start of a modern console, capable of outputting at up to 120 frames per second and in 4K resolution. Together with some heavy-hitting upcoming first-party and third-party titles, there is little doubt in my mind that the Switch 2 will be an overwhelming success. Just look at the comments! Oh boy. Oh, well, that's not very nice. Oh, well, you have a point. Okay, well, alright, it's fair. It's fair. Okay, I get it. I get it! Maybe there's a little bit of doubt. Just a little bit. Unfortunately, the monkey paw twist to all of this is the price. It's expensive. A lot more expensive. And not just the console, but the games as well. No wonder they didn't mention it during the Direct. But before we talk about that, let's dive a little bit deeper into the highlights from this presentation, and then we can talk about the crappy things. First off, just the sheer power of the Nintendo Switch 2 it blows my mind. Look, I know it's not the PS5 Pro or even a PS5, and I was never expecting it to be that way. But I also wasn't expecting it to be 4K resolution, go up to 120 FPS, do things that really the modern consoles are all doing. I guess I expected some sort of upgrade in power, but I really wasn't expecting for them to be able to play games like Elden Ring and Borderlands 4 and name other big party title that was shown in that Direct. Honestly, it just blows my mind that Nintendo finally understands that in 2025, you gotta have some sort of improvement in terms of quality, in terms of graphical capability. And now, it's not to say I was disappointed with the Switch. I love my Switch. It's my favorite console of all time. And the magic that they were doing with some of their first-party titles just blows my mind. That being said, the fact that they gave us a console that now has 4K resolution and much more power under the hood in terms of frame rate and things of that nature. Obviously, I'm not a tech guy, so don't come after me for misquoting things. I'm just very happy with Nintendo when it comes to that aspect and think they went above and beyond. Honestly, again, I was just expecting a slight upgrade, whatever that means. I don't think this is just a slight upgrade. This is a modern console, or at least a modern handheld console. Another aspect of this is the dock being more than just a projector, more than just a way to plug it into the TV. It actually has power. It's doing stuff to output into 4K. And that's why it has this fan, which I think is such a cool thing to think about. It's like, wow, this dock actually has some power behind it. Just the idea that there's enough going on in the Switch 2 and on the dock that it needs a fan to cool it off is just mind-blowing to me. Something else that we learned from this Direct is that the mouse rumors were real. The two Joy-Con do act as mouses, whatever the plural of a computer mouse is. That's cool. That's really cool. At least in terms of shooter games. I think having the mouse capability for a home console is somewhat unheard of. Of course, if you just play any game on a PC, like any Xbox game on a PC, you automatically have access to your computer mouse. If you're just talking about playing on your TV from your console, like a PlayStation 5 or, Xbox, whatever they call their system now, whether it be those consoles or the Nintendo Switch, now you can have a mouse. You couldn't do that before. That capability is nice. Whether it's more gimmicky than useful, only time will tell. The game they showed off for it wasn't necessarily reassuring. I don't think it's a bad game, but it's, using two mice to control using the two Joy-Con to actually control the game. I don't know. Seems a bit gimmicky. But then again, Prime 4, being able to play that with mouse control, maybe that'll change the game up a bit. Particularly if people are playing from their desks like they do a PC. Who knows? I mean, they did say that you can use your leg, apparently, to act as the mouse pad. But if that's just going to be counterintuitive, then I don't see it lasting another generation. But prove me wrong. We'll see what happens. I'll definitely play around with it. Something that I wasn't too optimistic would happen, something I didn't think would happen, was the upgrades to classic Switch titles. I don't know. I just didn't think Nintendo would bother. But they definitely bother. It'll probably be a good move by them at the end of the day, because it'll encourage people to get the Nintendo Switch Online expansion so that they can just get all the upgrades included with that and not have to pay an extra price, or people will pay an extra price just to get that, Switch 2 upgrade. So at the end of the day, I guess it was a smart move, and maybe it should have been a no-brainer. But I guess at the time, like I said, I didn't know it would be that big of an improvement. So here we are. Amazing Switch titles are now going to have incredible power behind them, playing in 4K resolution and 60 FPS at least. Hopefully that's a consistent 60 FPS. Maybe not all of them, but hopefully most of them. But if you look at the Zelda games, it's honestly night and day in terms of frame rate, comparing Breath of the Wild to each other, and even Tears of the Kingdom. They didn't do a comparison of Tears of the Kingdom as far as I know, but it looks so smooth and buttery, buttery smooth. But when I was playing Tears of the Kingdom back when it first came out, honestly, I was blown away with how it ran and how it looked, and didn't really think I needed, higher resolution. Didn't think I needed more frame rates. But then you look at what the Switch 2 is doing with it. I wonder how did I even accept this? No, I don't. I'm not that big of a snob. But it's quite a difference. And so I'm excited to play that. And I don't know if I'll do a whole playthrough. I may just try to complete my current playthrough. I mean, I've beaten the game, but I haven't done everything there is to do in Tears of the Kingdom. And that's where also this new Zelda app comes in, which I think is a really neat feature. You get certain things, GPS, which is kind of just hilarious. Turn right at the rock. Keep going west. Keep going. Keep going. Climb the mountain. But yeah, so there's a GPS. There's the daily rewards. There's some new story beats. I mean, it may not be incredibly deep lore, but Zelda journal entries and some other exciting characters, sharing content with other people. There's a lot more that the app offers now, and encouraging a replay. I kind of wish those features would have been there to begin with. I don't know why it took them so long, besides maybe just waiting for the next console, knowing it would be a good way to get people to either play again or buy again. But I hope in the future that they have more apps on the Nintendo Switch app, whatever it's called, because they had Splatoon, Animal Crossing, and that may have been it. Maybe Smash, but they didn't really have too many. Felt like they weren't really using it. But this is a great use of the app platform, so I hope they continue to create apps for games like Zelda. But of course that takes time and development, so you never know. Moving on from classic Switch titles, let's talk about Switch 2 exclusive stuff, namely Mario Kart World. I don't know if they're calling it Mario Kart 9 or if we're just getting ready numbers entirely. Racing. Hey, speaking of racing, someone's doing that on the 395. Mario Kart World tells it as it is. It's an entire open world area just for Mario Kart racing. I thought Mario Kart 8 was the peak of Mario Kart content. I wasn't sure where they go from here. Little did I know that I just let go of the constraints of what a Mario Kart game should be. Look, not every game needs to be open world, but you could certainly try. And it looks like with Mario Kart World, they have just thrown all their ideas out on the table, saying, hey, let's just let people explore a world, just like in Diddy Kong Racing, I guess. Let them explore the tracks, have secrets hiding around. I mean, there's more to find out. We'll get a direct later on in the month. But man, it is exciting to think about the possibilities when it comes to exploration. I cannot wait. I will spend hours in free roaming mode. No doubt about it. I also love the Battle Royale knockout race stuff. Like, that's such a great idea. And going from area to area. So it's not just a knockout race, it's also in just the regular circuit. You don't just magically transport to the next racing track. You actually go to the racing tracks, and that's part of the race, is getting to the next racetrack. I think it's kind of ingenious having that connectivity, and it's not just you're in a tunnel getting to the next area. You're actually traveling through the different environments to get to the next area. It makes me wonder if each circuit is set and there's no really mix and matching. You know how in Mario Kart 8, if you wanted to hop around in multiplayer mode, hop around to different tracks, you could do that. Maybe they'll do that here as well, but with them being connected that way, maybe you are stuck to having to play the 4 races, which is not the end of the world. And again, there's just so much connectivity between them all. I think we can maybe live without that. And plus, in multiplayer mode, you can go into free roam and just go where you like anyway. That's such a great feature. So anyway, there's so much to be excited about. I'm sure I will gush about that in the future as well. And you know what? I'm kind of bearing the lead here. The real reason why I'm ecstatic, over the moon for Mario Kart World is this guy right here. Yeah, just look at him. Look at him. I would sell my soul for Moo Moo. I need Moo Moo spin-offs. I need Moo Moo merchandise. I need it all. Moving on to the next best reveal from the Direct, in my opinion, is Donkey Kong Bonanza. There have been rumors for a year or so, maybe a couple years, that there was a new Donkey Kong game in the works, specifically by the Mario Odyssey team. And some directs go by and we hear nothing, and I think some people thought, oh, maybe that game was canceled. Nope, here it is, a new Donkey Kong game, 3D exploration game, somewhat of a collectathon that's definitely developed by the Odyssey team. I mean, it still is Donkey Kong, but you can tell it's from the same creators as Odyssey. It has that Odyssey flair to it, and I love it for it. There's a lot to love about it. Donkey Kong expressions, the return to form in a lot of ways, kind of borrowing from Donkey Kong 64, and maybe a bit of Banjo. I guess some of the rare magic, really. Rare and retro, kind of combining the two. The new design for Donkey Kong, I'm sure people are gonna take it or leave it. They'll get used to it, I think, though. Technically, it's not entirely new. It's a callback to his original design, but I digress. What's most important, though, is the gameplay itself, and the idea of hopping into worlds and just really destroying everything, exploring it as you will, going through the world at your leisure, creating your own paths, digging down deeper, finding lost bananas, Odyssey style, is clearly going to be amazingly fun. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. Just like with Mario Kart World, watching it at the treehouse, I was just blown away with how smooth it looks. The resolutions are amazing, and there's just a lot of love put into it. Classic Nintendo love. So can't wait. Creative, charming, funny. Definitely will be a day one pickup for me. Another thing I got from the Nintendo Treehouse is that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a must-play on the Switch too. I would be happy with the Switch version, and it looks good, but man, that smooth frame rate on Switch 2. And I think having the ability to use the mouse controls, even though it might be a little bit gimmicky, is still nice, and I want to try it out. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna get the Switch 2 version of Prime 4. It's just how it's gonna be. We still don't have a release date for it. That's kind of worrisome, but for whatever reason they're holding it close to their chest. I mean, it honestly feels like they're holding back in general. We did get a good sneak peek of the tutorial or the beginning area at the treehouse, so that was nice. But there's something that they're waiting on, and they just really want to keep us on our toes or have us on the edge of our seats. It'll happen. It'll come eventually. It looks like it's ready to pop out. Is that okay to say? The boss fight that they showed at the treehouse was really cool too. Kind of reminiscent of previous Metroid Prime games where you have a boss fight and then the environment completely changes and then you get into the actual game. Comparable to Metroid Prime 1. That could easily be a game of the year for me. Same with Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World. It just depends how I'm feeling, really. One more Nintendo published or co-developed game that I want to talk about is Legend of Zelda Age of Imprisonment, or I think it's Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I should correct myself. Happy to see more of the series. They really perfected it with Age of Calamity. Hyrule Warriors, the original one, was fun and quirky in its own way, and they improved it with subsequent re-releases on the Switch, or the re-release on the Switch, I believe. But truly, Age of Calamity was the best one to date. and I have no doubt that Age of Imprisonment will be another improvement, and it's going to be an interesting take on, behind the scenes, what's happening while Zelda's in the past. I don't know, I'm really intrigued by that part of the story, to see us play as Zelda like we did with Age of Calamity, but in this case without Link around. It could be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow brought Link into it, whether it be post-game content or part of the story. Somehow Link gets to the past, or the story fast forwards it to the present. Either way, I would be surprised if Link never shows up. But if the most of the story is about Zelda and Nadu, I forget his wife's name, Sonia, is that her name? Maybe, seeing them take on Ganondorf in his prime would be pretty cool. Playing as Ganondorf will be really fun. I hope that happens. And one of the major parts of this Nintendo Switch 2 Direct was the third-party support. They showed up. They came in and backed it up with great titles. I mean, I guess Nintendo did everything they could to make sure that developers were happy or capable of developing for the Switch 2, making sure the power is there for their games. And, these developers answered back, namely From Software. Traditionally, From Software hasn't really worked with Nintendo on too much. There's like maybe 2 or 3 From Software games before they eventually ported remastered Dark Souls to the Switch, and you think even that was pretty rough. But now we get not only Elden Ring, one of the better games of this, what do you call it, current or previous generation? Either way, one of the best games as of late. We are getting an exclusive From Software game for Nintendo Switch 2, The Duskbloods, aka not Bloodborne. I was just shocked. I mean, first off, just having Elden Ring there is a dream come true. I actually haven't played Elden Ring, but I really want to. Now that it's on the Switch 2, I'm definitely going to play it and play it there. That's one thing. But to have an exclusive game from Software is huge. It shows that From Software wants to develop for the Nintendo Switch 2, and Nintendo is willing to do whatever they can to make sure they get an exclusive title from one of the best developers out there right now, or at least the best developing team. I wonder if Sony is upset about this at all. Not that I want them to be, I'm just curious what the mood is in the Sony room about Nintendo Switch 2 getting a From Software exclusive title. I don't know. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're like, whatever. Or maybe they are banging their heads against the wall. How could this happen? That's not like they're taking the Bloodborne IP. That's yours, Sony. You can have it. For all we know, it could run terribly, even on the Nintendo Switch 2. But the idea and the possibility of it being an incredible game that runs beautifully is pretty exciting. The last thing I want to mention is GameCube NSO. We've been asking for GameCube NSO since the existence of Virtual Console, really. Regardless, we now are getting them with Nintendo Switch 2. Great to see. The biggest game for me of the titles that they showed, which they only showed a few, take it or leave it. Hopefully there'll be more. I'm sure there'll be more. But the biggest game for me is Path of Radiance. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. You would not believe, or maybe you would believe, because a lot of people who subscribe to this channel aren't Fire Emblem fans, but you're probably aware that Path of Radiance is ridiculously expensive online. Not just used copies, but new copies, or vice versa. Not just new copies, but used copies are all pretty expensive, particularly if you want the box to go with it. But now, or eventually, people will be able to play it online digitally without having to pay $200, $300 just to get the chance to play Ike's game. The more people who play Path of Radiance, the better. It is my third favorite Fire Emblem game out of all the ones I've played. I think Three Houses is now my favorite, but it used to be Echoes, so they're kind of 1 and 2. But Path of Radiance is a strong third. I think Ike is one of the best lords in the series. I think his character arc and journey in Path of Radiance is one you can all cheer for and enjoy. Radiant Dawn is a different beast altogether. It's quite the political mess. A lot of people love it for that, but I digress. play Path of Radiance when you get the chance. Don't let it die out. Okay, now that I've shilled for Nintendo as much as I can, let's talk about the lows, the negatives. And of course, we'll start off with price. The console is $450. Going into all this, I thought it would be $450. And then people started to talk, and I started to think that, oh, maybe $400 is possible. And I almost got my hopes up for that. But then when they revealed, or when press releases revealed that it was actually $450, I was like, why did I doubt myself? I'm glad that it didn't go all the way up to $500. I'm sure there was a lot of talk about that. But even $450 it's a steep price. It's one that I expected, but it's still pretty steep. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Games now are going to cost between $70 to $80, with Mario Kart World being their first $80 game in who knows how many years. Well, since games started being $60. Look, if I'm being completely objective, sometimes games that are $60 and yet have as much content or as much tender love and care put into them is almost a steal in some way. I know that's not great to say, but Breath of the Wild for $60 was pretty incredible, especially when you compare it to some of the other games that were $60. So it probably sounds like I'm encouraging Nintendo to charge higher, charge us more for these games. That's not what I'm doing, but what I am saying is that huge games like Mario Kart World are no longer going to be the same price as Princess Peach Showtime. That's just not going to be the case. I honestly wish games like Showtime were cheaper, but that's a story for another time. Games like Mario Kart World, the big Zeldas, the big Marios, are going to be $80. That's just the fact of it going forward, unfortunately. And it's a choice that I don't agree with. How can you agree with something being more expensive, really? But I see the argument, or at least the argument I'm putting in my mind. Games are more and more expensive to make. There's more and more people behind the development. And with a giant game like World, I'm sure the team is also large. Nintendo's also not scraped for cash at this point. They're doing rather well. Hard to say that it's warranted exactly. But the bright side is, if there is a bright side, is that not all games will be $80. Some will be $70, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. Honestly, when Tears of the Kingdom was first announced as $70 for just the Switch, I thought that would be the upper threshold and that they would actually try to keep their games to $60. But again, with Nintendo going more power and 4K and higher resolution or higher frame rates, I guess it was inevitable. Not that I agree with it again, but honestly, this could price people out of owning a Switch 2 or games in general. So I feel for people who feel that the price is too steep. It clearly is a pricing commitment that you have to make, a sacrifice. It's not as simple as, just don't go to McDonald's a couple times, So we have that, but there's also a lot of misinformation that's being spread about the price points and some of the games themselves. For example, physical games are not more expensive than digital ones, at least here in North America, Canada, and Mexico. Canada. In Europe, or as far as I understand, in Europe, there is a price difference between digital and physical, although I think even the physical ones are less expensive than our games here in the US. There is a price hike for physical, which I think is a bad sign for physical games. I think the consumer is going to want to usually pay for the cheaper ones. It's going to be less of incentive for game developers to want to even create physical copies, or publishers, I should say. We'll see. I mean, at least North America's not doing that. But people are pushing this narrative that there is a price difference. There is not. It is expensive. It's either $70 or $80, but it's not a difference between digital and physical. At least right now. I could be wrong, but current placeholders say otherwise. Another misinformation thing that's going around is the game card, the key card, or whatever they call it. I'm sorry I don't have the correct term, but it's not that every game is going to have a smidge bit of data in the card and then the rest you download. That's only with some games, depending on the publisher, that if they can't fit the entire game onto the card, they will just have this key card thing where you download the rest of it. They kind of did that with Nintendo Switch. It's just, I think it was just called a different thing, and I don't think it even featured a card. Well, maybe some did, but the point is, most games, if not all Nintendo published games, are going to have the entire game on the card. They have a stronger card that they made exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2 to be able to handle that. Don't go thinking that you won't own any of the games you have, or it's not going to be on the card. Yes, there will be day one updates. Like that's just a thing with everything nowadays. The main game, the base game, should entirely be on the card going forward, depending on the publisher. But I think you can count on Nintendo having all of it on the card for the most part. Those are just a couple things. There's probably more, but the point of bringing that up is that I wonder if not sharing the price point and talking about some of these changes somewhat more in depth was a bad choice on Nintendo's part. If you go back to the Switch January presentation way back in 2017, they did talk about price. Now, you only talk about price if you feel that's a big selling point and you're proud of that, right? And I think they were proud that they kept it to $300, whatever it was in Japan. Clearly, they were not happy. They felt the backlash was going to come at them and slap them harder than a DK high five. If they would have shared it during that direct, there would have been less misinformation going around. I don't know if it's going to be a huge detriment. I think they're counting on that they can get over this hump. It's hard to say exactly what could have happened, but they made their choice. They let the press releases and the journalists direct the narrative. You have Jeff Keighley over there saying, "Oh, Donkey Kong gonna be 70, or no, Mario Kart World is gonna be $80 digitally." And then people are freaking out like, "Wait, digitally? It's gonna be different physically?" It's a mess. It's a mess. But you know what? It'll make sense once the console's out, the games are out, people are actually buying them. I think they'll put two and two together. So it may not be that big of a deal, but food for thought. Last thing I'll say about pricing stuff. Nintendo doesn't owe us anything. It's not our right to have these video games at an affordable price, Unfortunately, I don't know how it can be changed other than the only way it can change is that no one buys it. I don't see it getting to that point yet. A game that I kind of puzzled me was Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's a neat idea, and I'm glad they're showcasing the Switch like that. But it really should be a pack-in title. I don't understand why you would try to sell it separately. But apparently, in Japan, it looks like it's going to be 1,000 yen, which is like basically $10. That's not too bad. I was worried they'd try to charge like $40, $50 for it, or heaven forbid, 70. But if it's only that much, I could live with it. $20 would be kind of rough though. $10, I think, is as high as I'll go. Again, it should just be a packing game, but I've said my piece on that. In terms of the future, we're a bit in the dark for games after Donkey Kong. Sure, there's Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends ZA, and very excited for those. And I imagine ZA will be like holiday season, and maybe Prime 4 will be sometime in the fall. Is that all that we're going to have this year besides third parties? It seems like there's going to be a lot to play anyway, so probably not that big of a deal. But it's not incredibly exciting either. You want to have that game that you want to just keep thinking about, keep speculating about. And we don't really have that yet for the Switch 2. I'm glad that we're not left in the dark about a game for years to come. I mean, look at Prime 4. It would be nice to have some sort of teaser for the future. And I guess I started this off by saying I would like to know what's next in the coming 6 months or so. But I don't know, it would be nice to have them tease a big title for sometime in 2026 or later. Yes, we did get Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life 2. Are those the grand system sellers that we want to see on Nintendo Switch 2? I mean, they're system sellers for me, I'll buy them, but for everyone else, probably not. That said, it may take a year for more games to get ready, or for games to align when they want them to release, like a Splatoon or a new Animal Crossing game. Things like that kind of like to be released in a certain time, particularly Splatoon. That one's usually summertime, I believe. We'll find out soon enough. I'm sure there'll be a direct. Well, some people are expecting there could be a summer direct like in July or something. I'm kind of thinking fall. Then again, we really don't know a whole lot about what's coming up. If Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a fall game, probably can't wait too long, so point taken. Only time will tell if this was a great introduction for the Switch 2 or another Wii U flop, heaven forbid. I'm sure most diehards will still buy it at first. The question is, will it pick up traction with the mainstream audience? A new ambitious Mario Kart is a great way to start, but we'll see if they're willing to bite the $80 bullet to experience it. For me, being the Nintendo fanboy I am, I'm going to buy it day one, console and all. I know I'm terrible, but that $500 bundle is looking too good right now. Doesn't mean I agree with the price. I just don't want to miss out on what looks to be an incredible sequel to my favorite console of all time. I mean, playing Zelda in 60 FPS. It's a dream come true. Or a dream I never thought that I had until now. And now that we finally have the Switch 2, or at least know when we're going to have it, let's start speculating about Nintendo Switch 3. Bigger screen, bigger Joy-Con, 16K, 3 fans in one dock. Joy-Con are actually smartphones now. VR gaming, smell-o-vision, it does your taxes. And still no ports of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. They don't exist! Not yet, at least. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2? Please let me know in the comments below. And please look forward to some exciting content to be coming from my trip to Japan. All right? Okay, see you later.